Hi there and welcome. I'm Nikki Sutton and I help people realise the infinite nature of self and of reality. Realising 5D consciousness. Wow, what an amazing topic actually. I'm so glad I chose this because the shift in consciousness has a profound impact on our lives. It changes how we see everything, how we perceive everything. And once we start having an awakening, there's no going back, is there? And I think you know that. You can't now unknow what you now know. And moving forward, it changes our lives, how we perceive others, how we see ourselves, how we feel about ourselves, and all these things. So I'm going to list for you a few realizations that you might have on the way to 5D consciousness on your awakening path. See if you resonate with any of these. First of all, we tend to lose our fear of death. Now that's pretty amazing.
You have written one time and another some sentences which have surprised me a little about death. Now in particular, I remember you said that death is psychologically just as important as birth, and like it's an integral part of life, but surely it can't be like birth if it's an end, can it?
Yes, if it's an end. And there we are not quite certain about this end. Because, you know, there are these peculiar faculties of the psyche that it isn't entirely confined to space and time. You can have dreams or visions of the future. You can see round corners and such things. Only ignorance deny these facts. It's quite evident that they do exist and have existed always. Now these facts show that the psyche, in part at least, is not dependent upon these confinements. And then what? When the psyche is not under that obligation to live in time and space alone, and obviously it doesn't, then to that extent the psyche is not submitted to those laws. And that means a practical continuation of life, of a sort of psychical existence beyond time and space.
That opens up a lot of doors for us. Now the fear of death is quite restrictive, I'm sure you'd agree. I mean, we still want to be careful, you know, if we're going to climb a rock face, we'd like to be tied on, wouldn't we? But removing the fear of death while still being careful to remain alive means that we have realized we're an infinite being, that death is just a lie, that we do carry on afterwards, so that we're not trying to cram everything into this life as if there's no time. It means that we don't start panicking when we reach an older age, that we haven't got much time left, or that we give up because we feel like we're old, when really we're never old. It's all in our perceptions. Removing a fear of death will allow us to do more, maybe be a bit braver, and to have experiences in our lifetime that are slightly outside our comfort zone, our previous comfort zone anyway. Although there are many of us who are still careful, sometimes the reverse is true. We realise the preciousness of our life and we become more careful and safety conscious. But still we're liberated because we know that death is not the end, it's just a rebirth, isn't it? So how liberating is that for the mind, removing the fear of death, because we go over into spirit, have a life review, incarnate again, go elsewhere in the universe. It opens up so many more potentials and removes the morbidity out of it. What a cheerful thought. Next, on realizing 5D consciousness, is realizing the illusory nature of time, that we don't need to be constrained by time. If we perceive we have lots of time, that's what will manifest. If we perceive that we haven't and we have to get everything done quickly, then we'll always be rushing and have time pressures all the time. We need to take a more holistic view of time, a holistic view of our time spent here. We can get caught up in the day-to-day busyness and what we must do within a certain amount of time. But if we look at our whole lifetime, what we're fussing and worrying about today doesn't matter so much in the grand scheme of things. Plus the past, present and future, they all exist as one. Even in quantum physics, they hypothesize that the past can even be changed. And I firmly believe that. It's to do with quantum entanglement. I believe that because what we try to manifest today, what we firmly believe and visualize that we can manifest today, I believe creation changes the past. We don't realize it, of course, in order to make sure that it manifests for us. So we perceive time running along in a line, in a linear fashion. The past is behind us back there, and the future is up ahead. But all we really have is the present moment. Have you ever not been now? Have you ever not been in the present moment? I mean, really, time-wise. Your mind might be stuck in the past or anticipating a future. You might be swept up in thought all the time, ignoring the present moment. But really, we need to look at time for what it is, which is the present moment, which our consciousness always perceives that it is. All the way through time, we perceive it as a sequence of present moments all the time. So we need to pay attention to the present moment. Awaken, look around at your surroundings, your family, friends, home, everything that you can have gratitude for, and observe the present moment, because the present moment holds all potentials, and it's actually free of negative emotion if you think about it, because sadness and depression arises from the past, and anxiety and worry arises from our perception of the future, but the present moment is just clear. So it's good to reside there sometimes. The subconscious mind knows no time really. Every negative emotion we have is a signpost from the subconscious that something needs healing. If you're experiencing depression, that means there's unresolved grief and traumas in the subconscious, and they come up with us day to day, and there's not a lot we feel we can do about it. We're just existing in a sad and depressive state. That's a subconscious mind crying out to us that something needs healing, and you're experiencing it as if it's now. You're experiencing the sadness now. The subconscious brings it up for you to be in now. If you're anticipating or worrying about the future, the subconscious gives you anxiety in the now, as if it's happening now. So whatever traumas reside in the subconscious from the past, whatever it is you're anticipating and worrying and having anxiety about in the future, your subconscious mind makes sure that you experience it now. And this is because the subconscious experiences time in a holistic sort of way, as if all is in the present moment, and we need to work with that. So time as we experience it here is one eternal present moment, and we need to become aware of it. Now we're moving in vibration to the next stage of existence. 5D you can call it, or the fourth density. I have a video on why they're called the same thing. But it's 5D means the properties of the fourth density, but let's call it 5D. So moving into 5D, and in 5D it's a different experience. It's a different frequency of matter with different dimensions. It has additional dimensions. So currently we exist with 3 spatial dimensions plus time running along in one direction. But in 5D, time will be running in 2 directions, or multi-directionally. So we need to adopt this holistic view of time in the 3rd density, moving into the 4th density, or 5D, preparing ourselves for this transition where we won't be experiencing time in a linear fashion. Instead, we'll be able to move around in time at will, and that's why some people comment or complain that time seems to be moving faster for us. And one way to combat that, if you want, is to change your perceptions of time and perceive that you have plenty of time in order to manifest more time, because thought creates reality, and the same goes for time and our perceptions of time as we move into 5D. Next, on realizing 5D consciousness, another realization we can have is the realization that we are our higher self. We're becoming our higher self. Our higher self is us in the far distant, unimaginable future, and we're becoming our higher self over eons and eons of time. We're realizing our true infinite nature. And so we end up watching things unfold from a higher perspective. I'm not saying we're high and mighty on a pedestal or anything. What I'm saying is we're watching things from a higher perspective, an outsider's perspective sometimes. Sometimes people say that when they have an awakening, that they seem to be watching things going on, as if in slow motion sometimes, watching those who are fully entrenched in a 3D reality, a 3D life, getting swept up in the minutiae of everything day to day. And yet we can see beyond that, because we realise we have this lifetime and the next and the next and the next. We are an infinite being going on and on and on, with rest in between. I think we need a rest in between lifetimes. So we don't get so swept up in the little bits day to day and the things that would usually trigger us or upset us. So we can rise above it and approach things in love, light and understanding. So we're seeing things from a higher perspective, more helpful perspective. So we're conscious of being in this world, but not of this world. So some of us may have travelled, our souls travelled from far away places in the universe or multiverse, and literally not be of this world. But our soul, our spirit is so infinite that we are in this world as a 3D human being, but we're not really of this world. This is like an experience that we're having during this lifetime while we're here. Yes, we're visitors in a way, some of us. Some of us have had many lifetimes here. Many, or even begun here. I have a video on the birth of the soul, how the soul starts going, Some may have originated from Earth. But we're still not of this world, really. It's an energetic reality, not how we perceive things around us with our 5 senses. This helps us become aware of our infinite nature, rising above and not getting tangled up in the day-to-day 3D issues of the system of politics, economics and finance and social stuff, arguments and people falling out or gossiping and all this stuff, and media. We don't need to get swept up in it, because there's way more beyond that. So another realization we can have when realizing 5D consciousness is that we're becoming an observer of 3D reality, as I touched upon. One of my Patreon supporters, Jem Freeman, he put it rather nicely. He said, the 3D realm becomes a sort of movie because we are no longer constrained by the same laws. So what I think he meant was that we're not really constrained by these 3D laws anymore once we realise that we go beyond that, we stretch far beyond that. So why do we need to be kept down by them? All is thought. And soon I'll be doing a video on how we don't realise the power of our imagination. What is imagination really? Quantum physics tells us that reality manifests when there's a conscious observer. The unified field, the waves of probability in the unified field manifest into particles of matter when there's an observer. So our consciousness interacts with reality to the extent that it manifests, it comes to be when we're conscious of it. It's like our reality is designed and geared towards interacting with our thoughts. We must realise that. So as Jem said, we're no longer constrained by these laws, the the Newtonian laws that we pick up with our 5 senses around us, we realise there's more. So we end up an observer of 3D reality, sort of contemplating and pondering it while we're here, but realising that we can go beyond that, far beyond that, with our thought and manifesting. So lastly, my last realisation on realising 5D consciousness is realising the interconnectedness of everything, the oneness of everything. The same energy is in all of us, all atoms and molecules. It's all just energy, and there's atoms and molecules and me and you and everything we see. It's one intelligent energy manifesting little consciousnesses, points of consciousness, and we all interact with this same field of energy. We're all connected. It's the same energy in all. And as I said, your thoughts affect reality, but your thoughts also affect the mass consciousness. They affect others that we're connected to, we're plugged into everyone. And by raising your vibration and doing your inner work and healing, you don't realise how much you're affecting all of us. Because you're putting out there those vibrations, those thoughts, those happy emotions, your imagination. You're putting out there these ideas that others freely share. And when you have thoughts, others will pick up on your thoughts somewhere in the world. They'll think it's their own thought. They'll think it's their own bright idea. And that's how it goes. They don't know they've picked it up off you. But we do share thoughts, and it is perceived as our own ideas, our own thought. I'll give you an example. My partner might come up with a bright idea about something philosophical. And the thing is, I just thought it about half an hour ago. Now, did he really have that bright idea, or did he pick it up off me? But he thought it was his bright idea. And by the way, it happens vice versa. It's not him nicking all my ideas. It goes back and forth. But we'll have realizations at a similar time, similar ones, because we're very well connected, because we spend a lot of time together. But we think it's our own ideas. And that's how a medium works, or a psychic works. It comes in as your own thought, and you have to discern whether you picked it up from spirit or someone else, and that's usually done by context, etc. If you take my intuitive and psychic development course, I'll go well into all this stuff on nikkisutton.com. But we are sharing our thoughts, feelings, emotions, ideas, and everything with the mass consciousness. So working on yourself, really, I'm not kidding, it has a huge effect on everyone subconsciously. So your vibration matters, and your inner work and your healing and everything you're doing on a spiritual path impacts. It has an effect. You go out there, take action in the world and do lovely things. But as well, working on yourself isn't just making a difference to you, a big difference to you, it's making a difference to everyone, honestly. Okay, so those are a few realizations when we're realizing 5D consciousness as we're making our ascension in vibration to the next stage of existence, moving along. And it requires us to have realizations, because all is thought, all is mind, and a lot of it is personality work, healing the mind, healing the subconscious mind, perceiving things differently, freeing the mind, so that we can ascend in love, light and understanding, not so swept up in 3D minutiae anymore. So if you've had other realizations on your path, other realizations that you feel are helping you to ascend to 5D, leave them in the comment section below. Help each other, won't you? Remember to click subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, to receive regular spiritual inspiration on your journey through life, and click that bell button too for notifications, because we're raising the mass vibration together. And can I just shout out to my Patreons, thank you so much for all the support and for making this channel possible. Thank you. So go now in love and peace.